Greetings, welcome back to my channel. You have worked your tail off and you have enough songs to put into an EP or an album. What's the best way to put those together where you grab people's attention, maintain it, and they connect through the rest of the song so that the songs at the end aren't just being left off? These days, that's, with so many singles just being released is a big problem. When you love the album, can you imagine just plucking the best out of Abbey Road or Sign of the Times and just not listening to the whole album, the whole piece? That to me is the real art, is the full album. I love albums. My influences, the Beatles. They could put pop songs. They could create the best songs in history and knew how to put that together. They put together the White Album. I think it was like over 24 hours, like all night and day. Paul, George, Martin, and Lennon mainly, with a little input from Ringo and George Harrison, to put that all together. And their albums really flow. It's not thrown together, right? Prince, he's got triple albums and you don't get bored. Again, great songs put together in the right way, in a way that flows, keeps your attention. And Quincy Jones, the Thriller, Bad, study those as well. And there's interviews with Quincy Jones. He's like, we had 50 songs and we narrowed it down to, this 9 or 10 or whatever it was. He's like, and a lot of those songs, none of them were bad. No pun intended. None of them were terrible or worse songs. It's just that at some points in the album, we needed this vibe. So maybe even some of the songs are weaker than what they rejected, but at that moment, they needed a vibe to contrast with what was before and keep your attention. That was more important. So look up those interviews. Hard to argue with the Beatles, Prince, Led Zeppelin, that's another one. Jimmy Page, how he produced those and put those together. Those are much longer songs, short. So you've got shorter numbers of songs to work with, so they really have to count, right? And I believe he accomplished that. Quincy Jones, as mentioned. Now, a little bit more controversial. A lot of people hate this band. I don't. In their heyday, I still like a lot of their work, and I pay attention to what they're doing now. But Motley Crue, especially their first 2 albums, under the guidance of producer Tom Werman. So I personally think Shout at the Devil is one of the greatest albums of all time. And their first album, Too Fast for Love, with its rawness, but again, how the songs flow together. Listen to it. They really go well together. Tom Werman, and I use his method mainly. I've augmented it, and we'll go into that. So Tom Werman says, find what you feel is the best song, the second best song, the third best song, and the worst song. And then he has placements for those. The best song goes in slot 1. The second best song, slot 2. So best, second best, third isn't in third. It's in the middle of the album, or where the first song of the second side would be. So in our age, without albums, I put that about in the middle. So you've got the best song, the second best song. In the middle, the third best song kind of lifts things back up. Now, the worst song does not go last in Tom Werman's system. The worst song is second to last. You don't want to end on a bad note with the worst song. And so it's pretty easy to figure out what he thought was the worst song on the album. It's the second to last one. So that's funny. Now, I've well, how do you judge what is the best song? Now, I think he just kind of used his producer instincts and commercial, like based on what would be the biggest hits from his experience. I've come up with a little acronym, ECHO, ECO. So each song I evaluate on ECHO. Its entertainment level, its commerciality, and then its originality. So for me, entertainment, the less boring it is, the more entertaining it is. Don't be boring. That's rule number one. You can't have people. I've played live in front of 80 people, and one person looked at me and went, "You don't want that feeling. You don't want that experience. Believe me, and you don't want that in your albums." And it can be, you've got to look at your work objectively. You might be in love, with a section, but it keeps repeating, and it's like, is this a little boring? So that's going to lower the score. And I score them 1 through 10. So ECHO, entertainment level, and then commerciality. So for me, that would be a tight, short, 2.5, 3.5 minute song. Got hooks all over the place, like 3 or 4 hooks. Sounds polished. Maybe not as challenging, but more fun. So there's a blur between entertainment and commerciality. I get that, but score it on just commerciality, catchiness, for its genre, right? And finally, originality. Some people would want to put that first. That's fine. But let's be realistic. We want to grab people's attention. We want to make money. We want to entertain and get people on the dance floor without big meaning. But now originality, we might sneak in that meaning. We might have something that's actually not very commercial. The way it's sung or something you've never heard before, but is it grating or so interesting it pulls you in? We're not sure. Originality is risk, and you can rate that 1 through 10. Something radically different, or a twist on something old that makes it a bit new. So yes, I use the Tom Werman in general method, but to really dig down, especially when you're doing this all by yourself and you're an indie artist like me, you can lose objectivity and kind of get attracted to songs that are maybe newer but not as good, or they've got a little place in your heart. This makes you a little bit more objective. So ECHO for each one, 1 through 10, add that up, and then you might be surprised where that takes you. The other method I want to talk about is braiding. So again, you use the ECHO, and you've got your best song down to the 12th worst one, or if it's an EP, the 4th or 6th worst one, whatever. I was surprised this worked. I had an album, and just the normal Tom Werman thing just wasn't feeling right. Like, it felt like the end really wasn't holding up. Like, there was too much. The good songs were I felt a bit stronger than the weaker ones, so much where it felt imbalanced, even using the Tom Werman Motley Crue method. So what I did was, I call it braiding. Like we're braiding. We're taking one part and sort of mixing them. So what I do is, best to worst. I use the echo method that I came up with to help me evaluate that objectively. So you start with your best to worst. Now take your worst song. Here's the best. Take your worst song and put it after the best song. Take your second to worst song and put it after the third best song, and on and on. And what I found was taking a mediocre song and putting it more up front gave it a little bit more. People were like, or at least I felt, by placing it more up front, gave it a little bit more credibility. There was I forget the name, the Ballad of, or something like that. Bob Dylan had an album, and there's a song that he did, and he thought it was the worst song, and it didn't fit any of the other songs. So he's like, put that first and name the album after that. So, that level of creativity of placing things. But the point is, you can take, by putting a song that's weaker more up front, gives it some gravitas. And also, I think some of the shine, some of the positivity of the song before it gives it a little bit more life. I was really surprised that worked for... I've only done that with one album. It was like 14 tracks, and it solved a huge issue. I just said, wow, it's come together now over me. It worked. So in the end, though, you've got to objectively find out what is your best and worst. Maybe you have a different criteria. I think I go for entertainment, commerciality, originality. Maybe you're like a Nick Cave, Johnny Cash type, and it's, or a protest singer. Maybe it's challenging. That would be first. It's just, these are just suggestions that have helped me. Play with them, come up with your own ways of figuring out what you want, what you believe is best about your work, and what you want to push. And I would bring those up front using that Tom Werman method. If that's not working, try the braid method. That can really even things out. Final thought, no matter what, there are no rules. If something if it's just not working, no matter what, try randomly changing things. Mix it up. Switch things a little bit. Or sometimes songs just feel like they should be. I've noticed this, like on Revolver, Tomorrow Never Knows. That really screams to be the last song. It's talking about in the beginning, and that takes you sort of in a loop. And it's so bizarre. It ends with sort of a, whoa, I'm excited for the next Beatles album. So I'm not sure if Tomorrow Never Knows would have worked in the Tom Werman method, but things like that, it's like, boy, this screams like, you know what, maybe it's not quite the strongest, but because, like Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in that concept, that's got to be the first song. So be flexible. Go with what the album is telling you to do. But overall, I have found the Tom Werman method and being open to putting maybe less strong songs, but more that capture a vibe, like Quincy Jones suggests, to keep the flow going. That's an option to be open to. So, really think about how you order your albums, and that itself is a second art form. So you've created these wonderful songs, and then another layer where you can express yourself is how you put them together. Check out my albums. They're on all the platforms. Brad Ashlock. I do experimental rap. I do alternative, grungy rock and retro stuff and some pop. I'm just eclectic, and that's what I like, is not being pigeonholed into one thing. If you're going to be an indie artist that nobody knows about, go crazy. F it, right? And one final thing I just remembered also, JPEG Mafia, I'm a huge fan of him. And what he does is he'll write 100 songs for a 14-song album. I'm not suggesting you... I did 50. And what happens for me is, anyway, most of the songs I rejected end up in EPs or things later. And I think he does the same. But go big, get a lot of songs so you can really weed out the weaker and get... So if you start where it's a real struggle, that's where that echo system really helps, because hopefully they're all damn pretty good, right? Or at least risky and like, whoa, I don't know if it's good or crazy or interesting, or is this a disaster? But I'm going to go for it. You've got an album that good from a pile of, options. So, everybody works differently. That's, I'm known for productivity. But that's just, a suggestion. Obviously, the more you have to choose from, the better you can get in your criteria. So, yes, let's keep the album alive. Don't just release singles. I mean, do it, but at least an EP. But I love, and I will never give up on the album. That's a whole nother journey. You've got the mini journeys within each song, and then the overall under the umbrella of the album. I believe in that. I'm never going to let that go. And I hope that this video can help you put together an album based on these wonderful producers and artists, ideas from them, with a little bit of my own take on it. So I hope it's helpful. Leave comments. Please subscribe. I'm going to be, I've got my music out and my crazy videos. Maybe you're not a big fan of that, but I'm an indie artist. I have a master's degree in the fine arts from one of the top 10 schools in the world. So I do think I have something to offer creatively. And I'm going to start sharing my methods and ideas like this more. So please subscribe and give some likes, give some comments. And how do you put your albums together? I'd love to learn from you as well. So thanks again, and keep rocking.